This is Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.
I shudder thinking how the world can be so cruel. I lend my voice to those who can't. It's time we try, it's time we care, it's time to stand. It starts with a voice.
Welcome to the Special Chronicles Podcast. My name is Daniel Smrokowski. I'm the founder and host of Special Chronicles and a Special Olympics Southern Striver Global Messenger alum and one of the Team Coca-Cola athletes. Our website, specialchronicles.com. We can stream archives of over 750 episodes absolutely for free. And follow Special Chronicles on social media, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. This episode is brought to you in support from the Coca-Cola Company. The Coca-Cola Company is championing innovation and representation to enable an inclusive culture. This week on the Special Chronicles podcast, Team Coca-Cola Celebrate Everyday Greatness series. We're on the road to the Paris 2024 Olympics and Paralympics with Sean, an athlete from Canada, and we'll hear about what sport he's competed in and much more of his story and his involvement with Team Coca-Cola coming up on this episode. So please put your virtual hands together as we welcome Sean on the Special Chronicles podcast. Welcome, Sean.
Hey, how's it going, Daniel?
It's good to have you on the program. And for those of our listeners that just listened to the audio podcast, if you go check out the video on YouTube, you will see that we're both wearing red, and maybe that's related to Team Coca-Cola?
Of course.
We both wanted to be on brand there. So we got connected because we're both on Team Coca-Cola. So why don't, for our listeners that are just meeting you for the first time, share with us how you got involved with Team Coca-Cola and what sport that you competed in.
Thanks, Daniel. So yeah, my name is Sean McColl. I'm a sport climber from Canada. I started sport climbing at the age of 10. I'm 36 now, and the journey through starting climbing and getting through the local scene and regional and national and then World Cup and youth World Championships and then the adult scene, it's been a huge journey. And even throughout that journey, I eventually then joined the Athlete Commission it's the International Federation of Sport Climbing, obviously the governing body. And as part of my athlete duties, I actually did a bunch of presentations to the IOC board, advocating and trying to get sport climbing into the Olympics. And we were close for Rio 2016. We got kind of the bad news in, I believe it was 2013 or 2014, that we ended up in the 2016 Olympics. So, undeterred, we're like, hey, what's the next one? Tokyo 2020. So, back into those presentations, and it was scary doing those presentations to the board because they would always ask me, the athlete, like a specific question. And I was very put on the spot. They would ask me a random question. And a lot of the time it was about how athletes liked the sport and how they liked being on the world stage. We obviously got our dream come true for Tokyo 2020. I was actually kind of afraid, or maybe not even afraid. It was just kind of funny that I might help get climbing into the Olympics and then be too old to actually make the Olympics. Turns out that longevity in the climbing scene actually really helps for sure lead, and maybe not so much for the other discipline, bouldering. But I did manage to qualify for Tokyo. We did Tokyo with the the COVID delay and all of that, and just the whole experience was amazing. And I won't ramble too much on that, but it was basically my life goal to qualify and compete at the Olympic Games. So I did that, a little pat on my back for that one. And then now 4 years later, we're headed to Paris. Climbing actually has 2 sets of medals now, so I continue to do bouldering and lead. I actually have my last qualification pathway in 2 weeks. It's the Olympic qualifying series in Budapest. So yeah, just finally gearing up for that. It's the second of 2 events, and I either get there, and I can make finals and qualify for the Paris Games, and if I don't make finals, I actually don't qualify. So everything's on the line, but that's like life of the competitor, and I am super excited to be there.
Awesome. We'll hear a little bit more towards the end of the episode with an athlete Q&A, and hear a little bit more about your story. But now, kind of switching gears to the Team Coca-Cola, you along with myself, and I'm blanking on the number of athletes that are on this team, and I believe it's around 20. It's either 13 or 23 athletes, but I know Coca-Cola had posted a picture with all of us that highlights the team. But for our listeners who are new to and just finding out about this team of this collective of athletes, can you share with us what is Team Coca-Cola?
Yeah, so I'll probably butcher it just because no one told me specifically what to say here, but to me, Coca-Cola is, a global team of athletes from across the world. We're in the able-bodied games, we're in the para games, and you're for the special games, and it's kind of an honor to be on Team Coca-Cola. I guess I didn't answer fully the other question, but I started talking to Coca-Cola in 2020, and they actually followed me and supported me through my 2020 Olympics as well. And kind of a backstory is that I've been drinking Coca-Cola like my entire life. And when I was on my youth team, it was kind of a running joke that I would show up to practice with a 2-liter of Coke and drink it during practice. And people are like, that's like trying to drink water. And I was like, no, like I need energy. I'm drinking sugar. And and that was my sugar. I'm also a huge candy fiend. So that's also goes actually really well with Coke. And then they supported me through this 2024 journey. And I got to actually meet a whole bunch of athletes when I went to Barcelona. And that to me is kind of the best part about being on these teams is the ability to connect with other athletes and, have dinners with them, kind of chat with them about, obviously their sports and their journeys, and just getting a little backstory because then I get to watch them at the games. And I feel like I just have that little bit of intimate knowledge, like, oh yeah, I saw them 3 months before the qualification and they were, just like streamlining, like all the way, like gonna do great, or maybe a little bit of doubt, or just all those little things that just really get into the mind of the competitors.
Awesome. And looking, I put out a few notes of the talking points that all of us Team Coca-Cola athletes will send, and they said that Team Coca-Cola, as you said, it's a global collective of world-class athletes representing the Coca-Cola company in a variety of sports for the Olympics, Paralympics, and Special Olympics, and with the diverse identities and talents. And I kind of jumping off of what you said, how I got connected with Coca-Cola is I've at the last Special Olympics World Games in Berlin last year, I gave a speech at a luncheon that Coca-Cola had sponsored, and they were really impressed with that speech, and then speaking on a panel at the Coca-Cola company. And so it's neat how they were able to, whether yourself as an Olympic athlete, myself with Special Olympics, or the Paralympic athlete, that they're able to connect with a lot of us world-class top athletes in all three of the Olympics. Moving on, can you kind of share? You shared a little bit about what you would do as part of the Team Coca-Cola. I'm sure like doing interviews like this podcast is probably one part, but what else are you doing as an athlete with Team Coca-Cola?
Yeah, so definitely, doing shows, doing podcasts, doing, I guess, video interviews too. I mean, like for you, those of you watching on YouTube, obviously you get to see my face and how I react and interact, and I actually really love that. I'm a huge podcast advocate because I can listen to them when I'm training and when I'm driving to training. If it takes 20 or 30 minutes or anything like that. So I like love podcasts, and yeah, we live in a world where we consume media, whether it's a podcast or a YouTube or, social media, TikTok, Instagram. And then, yeah, back to your kind of initial question, it is about celebrating everyday greatness and championing the little moments. And so I've been in my sport for obviously so long, and a funny kind of little backstory too is, so when I was really young, and we won't name the athlete because I don't want to shame them, although I kind of do anyways, is, I went to one of my idols when I was really young, and I was like, I really wanted to get a picture and an autograph. And so I kind of went up to them. We were at a trade show. So yeah, they were busy, and I waited for a little bit, and then I finally built up the urge to ask, and they literally said no. And I was pretty crushed. I was like, I don't remember how old I was. I really blocked from it. I was like 12 or 13. And it really stuck with me. And I was upset. And I think later, within the next year, I probably did get the autograph or photo. I really don't remember. But I basically told myself that if people ever asked for my autograph, I would never say no, unless I was, going to isolation or something like that. And I've kind of thought about that my entire career. And now, I guess people do ask my autograph and photos, and I try really hard to be there for fans and for the sport and just for everyone. And so, especially once I'm done the competition and I have no more things to do that day, if I have to get home to sleep or, all those things, maybe I cut it to 10 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever it is. But, when I won world championships in Paris, we were sitting in the stadium, and I signed autographs for 2 hours. And I was actually super proud to do that, because I was just stoked that 2 hours of people filtering through wanted to get autographs and pictures. And I'm done. We did the podiums. Actually, I think we were waiting for the podiums. I ran off and did it halfway through. But to me, I love that stuff. Having 8,000 people watch, not specifically me because I'm just part of the competition, but, to watch the finals, and then I happened to win on that route, and then, to win the overall it's really, really special to me. And then the fact that I guess I also speak French, so then they can actually speak French to me and kind of, interact with me that way. I think is really special. And I'd love to give back to the community.
Awesome. We're going to highlight a little bit more about that theme for this year's Team Coca-Cola Celebrate Everyday Greatness, and as well coming up after the break, as well as some highlights from the Barcelona Photo Shoot that you and myself and the other athletes took part in last fall. So we'll be right back right here on SpecialChronicles.com with Sean. And support for Special Chronicles comes from listeners like you. Please join our supporters with a monthly or one-time donation so you can operate our studio and continue our mission, giving respect and voice to people with disabilities. Visit specialchronicles.com/give. That's specialchronicles.com/give to donate today. We invite you to access Special Chronicles Plus, our behind-the-scenes podcast, bonus content, and to help support this show. Visit specialchronicles.com/plus. That's specialchronicles.com/plus to join today. And with that, as I fade that up, you had mentioned on Celebrate Everyday Greatness, and I think that speaks. This theme speaks to a little bit of what you shared in the previous segment about wanting to sign or at least do your best at signing autographs with everybody that you meet, and I think that gets to the heart of what this theme is. It's much more than just a public relations narrative. It's much more than this global advertising campaign that you and me and the other Team Coca-Cola athletes are featured in. And so can you share with us from your perspective, what is this Team Coca-Cola Everyday Greatness PR narrative?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to put into words, really. I think of them supporting a team. They're supporting individuals. They're supporting people from all different games, and really they're bringing them together. They're supporting them, and they're asking the athletes how they want to give back. And part of my favorite parts about being on the teams is I actually I like going to photo shoots and doing those things because my sport is pretty small. Like it's rare for a climber to go and do a photo shoot with like lights and 3 or 4 people there, or like 10 people there, and like a big schedule, or maybe you got on a plane to get there. And when you think of like, I don't know, like the NBA and the NHL and all those types of things, I think of that stuff a lot. And I grew up watching sports, love sports. I played soccer growing up, lots of those. And so yeah, to have climbing kind of join that collective, I think is really cool. It's like, stepping up the whole sport. Even like not me, but some other climbers, I think it's 2 or 3 have actually been featured in like GQ and some of like the top like really cool fashion magazines. Actually, our Olympic gold medalist did that, and it's amazing because like I see that, and like I've seen the covers of all those magazines, and I'm like, oh, cool, and then to know someone on the cover personally is really cool. And so yeah, kind of coming all the way back is just Team Coca-Cola putting all these athletes together, hopefully getting to meet them as well. Then hopefully maybe I get to even see them in Paris and say hi. Obviously we're going to be in our little like zones. Like I don't want to distract people, but if I can, go and have a coffee or have a drink, have a Coca-Cola.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. I loved what you said, and jumping back to the photo shoot that we had mentioned, that you had briefly mentioned in the previous segment, and maybe kind of share a little bit more of, because just like you, I don't participate in that many photo shoots, and so can you kind of show just kind of briefly some behind the scenes of what that photo shoot was like in Barcelona, and then a highlight of meeting another athlete. We had each night there was a dinner where we all got to meet, and in the pre-show you said that you enjoyed connecting, and I myself as well. It's fascinating to connect with other athletes, especially other athletes in different sports than what you compete in, and kind of hear each other's stories and journeys. And you can share some behind the scenes highlights from the actual photo shoot, and then going into the dinner that we had.
Yeah, so the Barcelona photo shoot, it was sometime last year. It was actually right after my Pan American Games. Actually, I left a day early to kind of race there to get there, but everything worked out. And it was cool because they were like, okay, well, you're going to be in Barcelona for this shoot. They're like, is there anything you want to do in the city? And I was like, I would love to see a football match, because Barcelona's like maybe not one of my favorite teams, but Messi played there, and Messi's the same age as me, funny enough. So like, I have this, like I could be him in a different life, but no, not exactly that. But like I love watching him play. I think he's super humble. And he actually wasn't even playing. He's been gone for a few years, but it doesn't matter. I really respect the team, and I really have always wanted to watch them play. So yeah, they got tickets for me. And so I actually landed, and I think on the same day, we saw the opposing team. They were actually staying in a hotel. So we were just like chilling in the lobby, and they just kind of like filed out, either going to like, it was like 4 or 5 hours before the game. So they were, I think, headed to the game. But yeah, it was just cool little moments like that. Then we got to see the game. Barcelona won. Everyone was really happy. And then the next day, we did the photo shoot. We did it at a climbing gym. We did some climbing shots. Then they had a few screens to do. They're like, oh, this is going to be the team photo. And like, yeah, I kind of love stuff like that. It is kind of sometimes intimidating. There's 15 people watching you and making sure you got to do the right thing. And I don't even know what the right thing is. So I'm like asking questions and no, but it's a really good time. I actually really love that. And then on the second night, we had a dinner at the hotel. And again, I kind of mentioned this really early on, but I love those dinners because you get to meet, like, obviously people on the team, other athletes, I guess other managers, and you just meet kind of everyone that's behind the scenes. Because when you do the photo shoot, you're there. You're there to work. Like, you want to get the photos. You can't just can't just climb around and do nothing. Like, we're there to get some photos. We're there to like get content. Which, as long as we get that, it's all good. But then at the dinners you get to talk to people, and you get to talk to the athletes. You get to see what sport they're in. I learned so much about actually so many different sports, and that's kind of my favorite thing to do. Turns out that I'm really terrible with names too. I try so hard to be good with names, and they're like, I read things how to remember. It's like, associate it with a picture or repeat it out loud right away. And I've tried a lot of things, and I say I'm in the sub 50% just for not being able to remember really well, but I try really hard. But the people, the two gentlemen across from me were from France. And so, like I said before, I actually speak French. So it was actually really nice because one of them could speak English, but wasn't super comfortable speaking English. And me being natural born English speaker, we're like born into this, being super lucky that the world has to speak English in order to function. And I don't say that as a negative. I just say that we're very kind of like lucky. But then, so I do speak French. And so I actually had half the dinner in French, which I absolutely love because I've been in other places where they don't speak English, and I struggle, but I do my best. But it was really cool learning about their sports, even learning about the difficulties for them traveling, whether it's their gear, because the gear is big or breakable, or they have to get it there a week early, with obviously the boats and stuff like that. But even bicycles, bicycles are for sure expensive. How many do you bring? And some of their answers is minimum 2. Because you never know, one might break. And then if it's local, we might take 3 just in case. And then all their different components. And, just what's the mental strain of you get there and your bike's broken. And it's just they kind of laugh and they're like, that's the worst thing. And they kind of say, is there anything like that in climbing? And I'm like, again, I'm so lucky. I bring my climbing stuff, fits in a bag about this big. I can bring it on the flight and carry on. And I'm like, that stuff's staying with me. I could lose my whole luggage and I'm actually fine to compete in climbing. But we're just kind of having a laugh, and we talk about how the cycle of the seasons work and the cycle of the Olympics and how they work, the qualification pathways, and it's a really good time. I generally love meeting other athletes because to me they're just the same person as me, just in a different pathway, in a different kind of dimension and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I often will think of that's just me in a different life. They chose this sport, they did this, and all these different things. And so I love to kind of honestly, it's a little bit of living precariously through them, even though I love my sport, I love everything I do, and I get to share. And so I love meeting other athletes and hearing their stories.
Awesome. Before we take our next break and then get to an athlete Q&A, which to kind of wrap up this segment, how inspiring it is, because I know it was empowering and inspiring for me to be named to the Team Coca-Cola roster. So how inspiring is it for you when you hope to be named to the Team Coca-Cola roster alongside so many talented and diverse athletes from around the world, whether it's myself from Special Olympics, the Para Olympic athletes, or the other Olympic athletes? How inspiring can you speak to that?
And you kind of said it right in the question, but it is inspiring, and it's kind of funny too, because I'll just throw it out there because I know a lot of people can relate, but I often get mild or medium or sometimes heavy imposter syndrome. I get into sometimes walk into a room and I'm just oh, right, gold medalist, triple medalist, and here I am with no medals. And I'm like, I made it to the Olympics. Am I a bit special? And then you kind of just have to knock it out of your mind. You kind of just have to say, look, everyone's on a different path. I've met gold medalists that have imposter syndrome. And I'm just I get it because I can. Anyways, you do get imposter syndrome, and then you start talking to those people that you feel like you're having imposter syndrome against, and then they say they're having imposter syndrome because they aren't good in crowds, or they struggle to deliver a speech. And I'm like, oh, but haven't you delivered 100? And sometimes it doesn't matter how many you've done. We just get nervous, and sometimes I guess there's not the delusion, but they're athletes always have interviews, they should be really good at them. But like, no, we're good at our sports. We're not good at interviews. Like, we can tell you specifically, like into huge technical detail, what our sports are about, and like these little minute details that you'll never see on TV. And that was the difference between first and second, or a thousandth of a second, or the aerodynamics, or just so many different things. But again, I can kind of nerd out all day. But yeah, I'm always just honored to be in a group of people, and to everyone that I've met, to their credit, they're often excited to talk about climbing because it's a new sport. They've generally tried it a couple of times. It is a growing sport. And so I love explaining my sport to them, especially if they're genuinely interested. And even if they're just like, oh yeah, no, it's a great workout, or my friends always do it now, and it's kind of growing. And so I'm very, very inspired. And I love that they ask questions about my sport too, because makes me feel a little bit better.
Awesome. Well, we're going to go ahead and take another short break. When we get back, we'll get into a quick athlete Q&A, and including a question that came in through text as well. So we'll get into that when we get back. Support for Special Chronicles comes from ComEd, Energy Force Ambassador Program, the country's first, the United States' first energy and solar efficiency education program, designed for and taught by people with disabilities. Learn more at specialchronicles.com/ComEd. That's specialchronicles.com/ComEd. And as we get back, we're gonna go ahead and get to a quick. We're running about 26 minutes, so we're gonna try to kind of run through this athlete Q&A pretty quickly, and so but first we're gonna jump to a quick question that came in. We are pre-recording this, so nobody's watching us live right now as we're taping this. But I'm gonna begin with a question that came in through text. And by the way, if you listening want to, you can drop us in the comments if you're watching on YouTube, or you can you should be able to either text or email to feedback@specialchronicles.com. But here, the question is for you, Sean. What is it like? What is it? What is it that you like most about the sport of rock climbing? Is it the adrenaline rush? Is it the challenge or danger? Is it the beauty of the scenery? Is it the physical excursion? What is it that you like most about the sport of rock climbing?
Wow, so there's so many things I love about climbing, and kind of usually narrows to the top two. And so I'll kind of answer it as a double part question, but one of the things that I love most about climbing is that it constantly is in a state of change. And I say this because every time we get to a new competition, whether it be the Olympics or a World Cup or a local, the course, so like the boulder problems or the route where we climb with the rope, is different. And the route setters, the people that have created this course, come up with it in the week or weeks before. And so every single rock climbing competition is different. I'm excluding speed climbing here. Speed climbing is the one where you race. That actually has a standardized wall, the 15-meter, standardized everything. But to me, it's that climbing is always in a constant state of change, and it will continue to change, throughout different trends. And so I think that's very much in the spirit of rock climbing, and that's kind of what I love most about it.
Awesome. Now to kind of wrap up this Team Coca-Cola conversation, what can you share with us? You shared a little bit about what it means to you, but what it kind of just briefly describe, what does it mean to you to be part of Team Coca-Cola?
I guess to me, like I said, I grew up drinking Coca-Cola my whole life, and so when they reached out and they offered to start a partnership, I was overjoyed, and all my friends were like, "Oh, Sean, that's a perfect fit." Like I have some like Coca-Cola merch that I wear all the time now, and to me, it's very humbling. I'm happy. I guess I'm having trouble coming up with better adjectives, but just like I'm happy to join the team. I'm happy to wear the brand, and I love what Coca-Cola does with the Olympics. They support them. They support the Olympics. They create these teams. And so I really like the direction that they're going in.
Awesome. Same here. It's empowering for me that that Coca-Cola is able to connect and be inclusive with whether it's yourself, Olympic athletes, Olympics, or us with the Special Olympics movement. All three of the Olympic movements were able to. Coca-Cola is able to really show that we're real people, that they're able to kind of bring that real magicness of all three Olympic movements together. And that you talked a little bit about celebrate everyday greatness, and that's the theme of this team for the Paris 2024 Olympics. What does celebrate everyday greatness mean to you, and how can fans follow along? There was we all posted that GIF video when the global announcement came, and there was a hashtag that we all when they told us the copy to post. Can you share with our listeners again what does celebrate everyday greatness mean to you, and then how our listeners can follow along this Team Coca-Cola?
Yeah, to me, celebrate everyday greatness is, it's written right in it. But to me specifically, it's that, there's how many millions, billions of athletes in the world, and not every one of them are going to make it to the Olympics. Not all of them aren't going to make it close to the Olympics. And that part of it doesn't matter. It's the fact that so many kids and so many everyone just has fun in their sport. And some people might agree, they'd be like, well, I'm highly competitive, I'm extremely competitive, and that's just me. But some people are less competitive or as competitive as me. And I think as long as they're having fun, they're having a good time doing their sports. They may not choose that as a career in their life. They might go to something else, the other hundreds of jobs in the world. But if they had fun doing their sport, then I think that is great, and I think that should be celebrated.
Awesome. Well, we're going to get into some social media plugs and how listeners can follow you and Team Coca-Cola, as well as some final thoughts as we wrap up after this one final sponsor break right here on the Special Chronicles Podcast and SpecialChronicles.com. We'll continue with Sean competing in sport climbing from Team Canada for the Paris 2024 Olympics. We'll be right back right here on SpecialChronicles.com. Support for Special Chronicles comes from United Airlines Bridge Disability Business Resource Group, connecting people of all abilities. Learn more on United's commitment to disability inclusion for employment and travel at SpecialChronicles.com/United. That's SpecialChronicles.com/United. And with that, where can our listeners follow both you, Sean, on social media if they want to follow your journey, and then throughout the Paris Olympic Games, as well as how can our listeners follow Team Coca-Cola?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. It's my last name, then my first name, so McColl, Sean. Pretty simple. And then for watching through Team Coca-Cola and through the Paris Games, we will all shoot them through on my social channels. I don't think it would be too hard to watch. It's always through the OBS and on the Olympic site. But yeah, definitely if you want to follow. I usually do training and a lot of climbing stuff, and kind of like a little bit of behind the veil of my journey.
Awesome. So if you or your management team can send me your social media links, so I'll make sure to put those in the show notes in the description below, so our listeners can follow you. And again, that hashtag for our listeners, celebrate everyday greatness. You can follow Sean as he goes to the Paris 2022 Olympic Games. Do you have any, before we get to this final question, do you have any final thoughts on your time today on the Special Chronicles podcast that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Just, again, celebrate everyday greatness. Go out there, have fun, do whatever sport you want to do, follow along. and at the same time, just be supportive of everyone and everything around you.
Awesome. Well, that's a perfect final thought, and I want to share with you. You had mentioned a few times that at that dinner at the Barcelona Photo Shoot that you enjoyed connecting with the other athletes, and I did as well. And in fact, my sister had come with me, and we started when we got back to the hotel after the dinner. We started following a few of the other Team Coca-Cola athletes on Instagram. So it's neat how it's neat and empowering that we're able to follow each other, both in the sport that we're competing in, but also in the other sports.
Yeah, I agree.
We got one final question, and to introduce that, we've got a bumper. So let's go ahead and roll that bumper.
We're not just
I should tone that volume up. Let's go ahead and roll that bumper.
We're not just athletes.
We are the ambassadors of an uprising.
Peaceful protesters.
In a rebellion against anyone
who has a fear of difference.
Difference.
Our demands are
Equality.
Dignity.
And the recognition of our
Shared humanity. We will not stop or accept anything less.
Today, our world is
more divided than ever. And coming together has never been more urgent.
The revolution is inclusion. Find out more at jointherevolution.org.
Ever since I attended the 2019 Special Olympics World Games in Abu Dhabi, which was back in 2019, the first time that the Special Olympics World Games had come to the UAE, had come to that region in the world. And so I've been asking all, I guess, one final question. I think it of course, our listeners tune in to this podcast and to any podcast for entertainment, but also I believe a big part is to also kind of take something with them into their own life and into the community. And so in addition to the final thoughts that you shared, I think that this question kind of speaks to how it. And can you share with us, what does inclusion mean to you?
Inclusion? Oh man, I could talk about this for a while. I'll try to sum it up quickly. I can see it in my mind. Inclusion would be the right of everyone to. I'll talk about strictly for sport because I think it's more for me a good pathway, but would be the ability and the right for everyone to try whatever sport they want without any barriers, and a lot of that would depend on other people to give them that opportunity. But I definitely do think it is a right to be able to try different sports and to be not excluded in trying any of them based on where you live or what you look like or so many of those things. But yes, definitely the ability to try the sports that you want.
Awesome. Well, that's a perfect way to wrap up this episode. Got a few final thoughts on this episode I'd like to remind you all. You can shop our merchandise store and know that 60%, that's 60% of the profits will go back to Special Chronicles. Our Special Chronicles merch store is managed by Outshine Labels. We have t-shirts, hoodies, coffee mugs, and candles, our Disabled Voices Matter line of merch. You can visit specialchronicles.com/shop. That's specialchronicles.com/shop today. And you can keep following the Special Chronicles podcast. Go ahead. Sean and I will wait for you as you go tap that follow button right now. So you on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, as new episodes drop weekly every Monday. Right here on specialchronicles.com. Don't miss our original content that will help you make impactful, inclusive connections in your life through our podcast. And you can visit our website, specialchronicles.com. We can stream archives of over 750 episodes absolutely for free. Subscribe to our newsletter, find our social media links, to contact us, and all of that on specialchronicles.com. Thank you again, Sean. It's been a joy to have you on the podcast, and and look forward to staying in touch.
Thanks, Daniel. Yeah, thanks, everyone.
And until then, have a great week. Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Special Chronicles Podcast. Our podcast was produced by Daniel Smrokowski on the Special Chronicles Network. Follow Special Chronicles on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Subscribe, rate, and review Special Chronicles on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Our website, specialchronicles.com, where you can stream our archives of over 500 episodes for absolutely for free. Also, there's a list of our favorites, original series, award-winning columns, and blogs. And sign up for our newsletter to receive exclusive bonus content delivered to your inbox. Again, specialchronicles.com. Special Chronicles is hosted by Podbean Podcast Hosting. Our live streams are powered by StreamYard. Thanks, as always, to our business manager, Adam Smrokowski, who always encourages us to never give up. I'm Daniel Smrokowski, back next week with more stories.
Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.